and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the daily race C that is on today. I'm driving the Mercedes AMG GT3, the car that I've chosen for the manufacturers for this, just for a little bit of extra practice. Although I have done a very nice lap in the SLS after I've done this race. It really does make me wonder why I picked the AMG GT3 over the SLS, but that's a different story, which I might do a little video just to show you the reasons why I wish I had picked that SLS now. But it's just a better car all around. But for this race, obviously I wanted to use the AMG, get a bit of practice. You can see starting behind Derek DK there, the 737 DK, and IRT Nisman behind me. Some very fast drivers in this lobby. Straight away, just trying to stay with that Corvette down this power zone. Obviously the Mercedes AMG is just lacking that little bit of power, and just to put it into perspective, it's about 3 miles per hour down on near enough the the long straight going over the start finish line, 3 miles per hour down on the SLS and the Corvette. So that is quite a lot, to be losing out by the end of a straight. It shows you why this car is struggling. Through the corners it's probably a little bit better through faster corners than the SLS, but then slower corners the SLS is a lot better, and that's where the SLS is really picking up a lot of time. You can just plant the power down, pull out the corners, and the acceleration through second, third, fourth and fifth gear is absolutely insane in the SLS. I think it's probably one of the strongest cars for that part of acceleration. As you can see there, managing to hold on to Derek DK here now, and just trying to make sure I stay in his slipstream for the back straight. It's really important that I had some form of slipstream, because if IRT Nisman gets to the rear of my car with a slipstream and I haven't got any sort of slipstream off the car in front, he was just going to gain on me so fast. You'll visually see the difference here now. I get a reasonably solid exit there, just managing to stay in the slipstream at the moment, but you can still see that Corvette still pulling away. And you can see, even though I'm in a slipstream, this man there is actually gaining on me slightly down this straight. So this is the issue with the AMG GT3, it's a lack of straight line speed. Hopefully there'll be some tracks that this won't matter so much, but Le Mans could be a very long race. That's the only issue I am thinking, but we'll see what happens when we get to that track. If we can pick up a slipstream, if I can pick up a slipstream, then I may be okay at that track in the FIA Manufacturers Championship. But now in this race, doing reasonably well here. Derek 737 DK is one of the fastest drivers on the game, and I'm managing to stay with him here in the AMG GT3. This car is actually very solid at this track in race conditions, I think. Especially now I've changed the view, it just feels a lot more consistent. But you can see now I've got into his slipstream, I feel like he decided that he was going to start doing massive fuel saving, because I think he realised that once I was in a solid slipstream, I was going to be able to do some fuel saving also. So as usual, the race turned into a very much a short shifting and fuel saving race. You're going to see it happen. I'm keeping all the action on board for this video. Haven't really got too much time available today to do too much editing for this video, because I want to try and get the nation's FIA race done and the manufacturers obviously today, and then them two races I'll be doing the proper editing where I change the camera angles around, etc. But you can see in this race, staying with Derek here now, and IRT Nisman there staying around 1.2 seconds behind me. At this point we're driving reasonably aggressive. You can see I'm not really saving too much fuel, I'm driving fairly aggressive, I'm not trying to push too hard, I'm doing some short shifting. You can see there midway on the 56th gear, and we go over line on a 131.9, so a reasonable lap considering I wasn't pushing 100%. But I think this is where the extreme fuel saving is going to kick in a minute, where I think he realises that he's got to really do it, because if he doesn't do fuel saving, I'm going to probably jump him in the pits if we're both driving aggressive and I'm behind him. So you can see, I visually seen there that he must have backed off on the fuel mixture, so I did the exact same thing and then short shifted, just stayed behind, because I just thought, I'm just going to stay behind you. Your car's faster than mine. There's no point in me trying to get ahead of you. I might as well use your slipstream to help myself out. But he obviously doesn't want that. He's going to save as much fuel as he physically can. You can see going for his corner, braking really hard there. Nearly caught me out. I nearly went into the back of him, but obviously braked a little bit early. Quite hard to judge the distance between the two cars when using this view. It is something I'm getting better at. I'm definitely starting to understand it. I'm starting to get some sort of reference to where the contact is going to happen. So I am getting a little better with that, as you can see there, using fuel mixture 2 through this section. So I've still got reasonable speed, but I'm just saving that little bit of fuel, and I'm short shifting in fuel mixture 2 as well, which was really important, because that's just going to save even more fuel now. Obviously the lap times are going to start dropping off now, because we're not really, this is the type of race this is. This wasn't a race about fuel saving. This was going to be, it wasn't a race about ultimate speed. This was about tactics in this race. race really, and I think if we both would have pushed 100%, I would have probably stayed in slipstream, but I think he would have been able to save a bit more fuel than me in that Corvette, especially down the straights, because I would have had to go to fuel mixture 1. He might have been able to use fuel mixture 2. Not too sure how it would have worked out, but you can see going through the corners now, just trying to take it really smoothly. And this is the advantage of this track with this view. You can really hook up the corners and put the car exactly where you want the car to be on the curbs. As you can see there, this man now behind me is picking up that slipstream, so he's able to now do the fuel saving also. It looks like he's won the battle that he was having with the Evolution, and this race is going to get a little bit aggressive. I'm going to have to warn you guys, because, but to be fair, I kind of wasn't too worried about it, because I felt like I gave as good as I got in this race, to be brutally honest. It was because I was the one who got the first incident against me, and then that kind of spurred me on to attack as well. I think it was just one of them all-out battles, but you're going to see there, just at this point, just saving the fuel. I'm not worried about overtaking him, but I can see that group of cars getting closer, and I kind of want him to get I was kind of wanting them to get along with this a bit, and maybe push hard, and then let me, I would have used my fuel mixture up as well, but while he's saving fuel, I need to save fuel as well behind him. I was just trying to give myself cover for the cars when they're behind me, when we come to the pit stop. I didn't want to get jumped by slower cars, so using that one mixture for the straight though, it's essential in this car. You can visually see he's clearly not using that one mixture, because I'm gaining on him. The Mercedes would not gain on the Corvette like that down the straight, so I go into fuel mixture 6 as I go to the right hand side, and then I go to the left hand side, and I didn't see Nisman there until quite late. Luckily he was aware of it, backed off and went down the right hand side, and I couldn't really make the move anyway because I didn't get into one mixture early enough. But it's getting very close now, and this is where the issue is going to happen soon. You see there, a bit of oversteer on the exit of that corner. Luckily he managed to save it, but because I tried to get back on the track as soon as possible. However, you always pick up a penalty when you do that. It's quite a strange one, because you lose time, and the game gives you a 1 second penalty, but not a massive issue. 1 second's not going to take massive amount of time to get rid of at the end of the race. So just trying to stay now in Derek's slipstream and just try and save the fuel again. You can see there, into fuel mixture 3. I ran a little bit deep into that corner. It was weird. It was as if my car and IoT Nisman's car got stuck together. You've seen him in the mirror, and as I went to brake and turn, the car just went straight, and he had the same thing. So it was really strange. It was as if we got a weird like desync or something can happen, and the cars just got kind of stuck together. It was really strange, but luckily not a massive loss in terms of race time. You can see I'm only half a second, 6 tenths behind Derek still, and this man there behind me is obviously pushing really hard as well while saving fuel. I knew that he would be saving fuel in that Corvette. I know how fast that car is down the straight, but now I decided I'm going to have to get aggressive here now, because I've got that Corvette behind me. I'm going to have to try and make an overtake and see if I can get past Derek on the straights, because I don't want to get overtaken by IRT Nisman. He's obviously backed off from the fuel mixture, and I think he's realised that I've seen that how close IRT was, and IRT Nisman's going to have a little look up that inside. You can see in the mirror he's not going to be able to make the move, and Derek actually gives me a little tap in the rear there. Luckily it wasn't really enough to knock me off course, and I got away with that, and I don't think he picked up a penalty, or no penalties given. So this is really showing how good the penalty system is now, in my view. You see, trying to break that slipstream there, doing my one allocated move back into race 9, brake nice and sensibly, go into corner, and this is where it all starts now. Derek completely I don't think that was a deliberate thing, although at the time I did. I think what he did was missed his braking and swiped me out, but obviously during the race you think that these things are deliberate, and this kind of spurred me on to think, right, well, if that's how we're racing. Luckily at this point you can see me battling with that Aston Martin, and just about got ahead. That was some really good strong driving by myself. I was half drifting when I was getting on the power, and I just thought I've got to throw it in as late as possible down into first gear, and managed to get that corner done and stay ahead of that Aston Martin. So that was really fun and enjoyable, and this race is really turning into an action-packed race. You can see how close everyone's getting. You can see it's getting very compact. Everyone's obviously trying to save fuel. Some cars aren't going to be saving as much fuel as other cars during this phase. I just now have to sit behind this Corvette down the straight, because I'm not going to have the speed to just get past these unless they're doing some form of fuel saving. This is definitely one thing I would say about the new penalty system. Like, so far I'm finding it okay. It's not giving penalties out, but it's definitely making the racing more entertaining. People are willing to go for moves, people are willing to battle and fight for their positions. As you can see there, IRT Nisman managed to get past Derek at this point, and now I'm just going to try and get past Derek as soon as possible, going through this corner there, and it looks like I couldn't work out whether he backed off at that point. It kind of looks like it when you watch it back, but during the race I thought he was just saving fuel just to try and, because it was a strange place to do it mid-corner, because then the Aston Martin got ahead as well. But got myself into P2, and a car just, if you saw in the replay camera then, I don't know what happened then, but the Lexus just came from about 400 yards back, missed his braking point totally, and he sideswiped my car, but nothing happened. It just kind of just softly rebounded off, and I didn't really lose anything. So luckily my car didn't budge. It must be something, I don't know how or what happened, but I expected, when I saw that coming in the mirror at the last second, I thought, oh, here we go, I'm getting barged off the track, but somehow got away with that. So this lap we're going to be pitting, you can see there, lap 7. Obviously you want to try and extend your first stint to make the second stint a little bit easier for the tyres. Right up IRT Nisman's gearbox, pushing really hard, trying to make sure that going into the pits I've got a little bit of a gap to the cars behind. I wasn't sure what sort of fuel saving people have been doing in this race. You can see the lap times have not been great. There's been a lot of aggressive driving and bumping and cars getting hit. I don't think anyone was really worried about the race pace at this point. I think people were just being really aggressive and just having some fun. As we go in the pits now, I've saved a reasonable amount of fuel. Not quite as much as I think IRT Nisman saved about 4% more than me, but a lot more than a lot of other drivers. You can see some on 17, some on 7%, I was on 24%. I think Derek had a very similar amount of fuel saved as myself. I decided to go a little bit over the diamond just so I could push a bit harder, because I was doing quite a lot of fuel saving. You can see just coming out ahead of Derek there with that little extra bit of fuel I put in. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have underfueled a bit more and got in the slipstream of IRT Nisman at that point, but I wanted to just give myself the position to push a little bit harder in this final stint now, because during the first stint I was in that slipstream. And you see Derek goes on the grass there. I don't really know what he was doing at that phase. It was a bit weird. He went on the grass and as if he wanted to get past, but I didn't understand what he was doing there. So I run a little bit wide out of that corner and lose a lot of time on the power. So I've now got to go defensive on the inside. You can see there, going in that top right hand corner, you can see we're going side by side. I go on the inside line. We have a tiny little bit of contact there, but nothing major, and I defend that line reasonably well, and then manage to get the car turned in for that corner pretty much perfect and defend this position. So still in P2, and this battle is just going to go on for a little bit longer now, as we're both starting to get a little bit more aggressive in everything we're doing. This is the kind of racing that people want to see, though. I don't think people want to see top drivers just driving around in a train all the time. And this is more it is entertaining to be involved with, as long as it doesn't destroy people's races, by the penalty system kicking in and getting 10-second penalties and people getting wiped out. As long as cars aren't getting wiped off the track, then it's not so bad, and I don't mind it too much. As you see again, managed to get a reasonable gap to Derek behind me there, near 4 attempts, going into braking zone. He's a little bit too far back to really make a move into this corner. I brake really late there, but he's going to have a little look on that inside, and he squeezes past and pushes me to the side a little bit again, a little bit aggressive, but I was just thinking, well, if we're playing that game, I'm going to do the same, and I'm going to attack that one back. As he has a moment on the exit there, this gives me the chance then to get in that slipstream and have a little look on the inside, and I was going for this whether he liked it or not, because I felt that move was a bit aggressive, so I thought we'll do this, and I got up the inside exactly the same as what he did to me on turn 1, and I get myself back into 2-1. So this is getting into a bit of a war at this stage, and it's getting very aggressive. And you can see, one thing I'll say though, he didn't complain at the end. I did think, because of the first move, that's where it started for myself, and I did think it was a bit dirty, but when I watch back, I think I gave as good as I got. And it's just one of them races where you're both driving really aggressive, and it was just pretty much war. It's more like a British touring car race than a GT3 race, but it was great fun to be involved with, and I'm hoping that he thought the same. I don't really know. He didn't complain at the end of the lobby, he didn't flash me during the race. I think he kind of accepted that his moves were probably just as bad, and was just thinking, well, like I was thinking, we're giving as good as we give, we're both giving it back, and I don't think we had any room to complain. So again, on this straight, trying to make sure that I get a clean exit off that final corner to make sure I've got the maximum speed going down the straight. He's a lot closer this time though, and now he's going to be able to pick up that slipstream, so I'm going to have to stay defensive down this left hand side, staying fully defensive. I'm going to brake as late as possible and hold the inside though. You can see there he gets past, but then he's going to go wide. I go on the inside, he turns in a little bit, but again a little bit of contact, and this time he loses out. I'm able to take a perfect line through that corner and he loses out quite a bit, and finally the battle is over and I can now settle into a rhythm. But I defended that corner well. He actually turned in a bit too early. If he would have turned in a fraction later, I think he would have made that overtake and actually got in front of me, but he turned in a fraction too early, clipped the car, and I stayed to the inside, and I had the right to hold that inside line, and it was just good fun racing, to be brutally honest. I enjoyed that battle, and it was all out war, to be honest. There was no one was going to back down in that. I wasn't going to back down, and nor was Derek, I don't think. So now I've just got to concentrate on trying to close this gap. 3 seconds behind IRT Nisman, and I felt like I would have the pace. I felt like I'd put that little bit of extra fuel in. I should be able to push a little bit harder than IRT Nisman. Obviously he's been able to pull away quite a bit, 3 second gap he built up when we were battling really hard during them few laps there. We lost quite a lot of time. You can visually see the out lap and the previous lap were not great. We probably lost about two seconds, maybe something like that, with the battling we were doing. But you're always going to get that in these races. When you battle, you lose time. So now I've just got to concentrate on trying to close in on IRT Nisman. It's going to be very hard though. We've only got, now as I go over the line, just 3 more laps left in this race, and pretty much 3 seconds to close in. So to gain a second a lap on IRT Nisman is quite a big ask. So it'll be interesting to see how much I can actually gain on him though, by just trying to keep it clean. Obviously I've still got to do a little bit of fuel saving. It's not in the bad condition of fuel. You can see there are 3 laps of fuel left at this point, but I know that's based on how I've driven the whole race. So I just concentrate on leaving it as 1 mixture, and sometimes going through to that 2 mixture for the middle sector. I don't need to go down to 3 anymore. I can just use 2, and 2 isn't the worst decision anyway. It's quite easy to drive in 2 mixture through that middle section. It gives you a nice positive front end, which gets the car into the corners nice and early. But you can see I've managed to gain 3 tenths on IRT in front of me now. So now going through this middle sector, this is where I put it to 2, and you can see how much better the front end is when you do that. You might lose a bit on power, but you gain so much more on the front end. You can see it hits the apexes so nicely on that fuel mixture 2, and also when you're getting on the power, you can really stamp on that power and get on the power nice and early. And I'm managing to keep the distance now behind me, with Derek behind me down to 1.5 seconds. He's not really gaining on me, so he's down to 1.7, 1.5. It's varying between 1.3 to 1.7 depending on where you are on the track. Obviously the Mercedes very strong for the middle sector, the Corvette very strong on this back straight, so it's just going to fluctuate as we go through the laps. But you can see got the gap down to 2.2, so managed to gain about 4 tenths on IRT, 5 tenths on IRT during this lap. So definitely had the pace to be pushing. I think without the battling we would have been pushing. I would have been able to fight for the lead. It would have been a good battle for the lead. But IRT Nisman, very good strategy, under fueling his car I think, and getting out in front and avoiding a lot of the battling and just driving nice and smooth, keeping it smooth all the way through the corners. And he's driven really well in this race, and he deserves to be in that lead for the tactics he's used and how smoothly he's driven. But you can see again still 1.4, 1.5 seconds to Derek behind me, and just gaining on IRT every sector. I seem to be gaining a little bit. You can see visually, you can see now I'm under 2 seconds behind him, and you can see visually I've actually caught up quite a bit, and I'm starting to put him on. I feel like I might have been putting him under a little bit of pressure here now, but I think he was fairly comfortable because he probably knew that in a lap and a half you're not going to be able to gain over nearly 2 seconds worth of time. You can see down to 1.7 seconds briefly as I put that fuel mixture 2 on again, getting that front end really strong. You can see again through this sector how I'm managing to pull away from Derek DK, where this Mercedes AMG is really strong through sectors like this. So I think some tracks are going to be very strong. It's particularly slow tracks with a lot of traction zones and curbs and stuff. I think this AMG GT3 is going to be a strong car. It's just in the power zones is where it was going to lose out quite a bit. Like Le Mans could be pretty much a disaster race. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. If I can pick up a slipstream in qualifying, that's what I think I'll have to do, is try and find some form of slipstream. But it's a 4-minute lap. Qualifying is going to be 10 minutes. You're only going to get 1 qualifying lap in on that track, so it's going to be interesting trying to pick up that slipstream, who you end up behind and stuff. It's going to be a right battle when we get to Le Mans, I think, in these Group 3 cars. The qualifying session is going to be like a race because everyone's going to be battling for position and stuff, and it'll be really interesting. You can see I managed to get that gap under 1.5 seconds now, and still 1.3, 1.4 seconds, varying the gap to Derek behind me. Obviously now we're on the power zones, this is where he's going to catch up, but then we come to the middle sector and I'm able to just pull that gap out a bit more. But you see, getting so close to picking up that slipstream off Martinez, man, I actually ran a little bit wide through that corner and lost a bit of acceleration. It was getting under 1.4 seconds, but he's managed to increase that gap ever so slightly now. And this is really enjoyable, you know, trying to push this Mercedes around this track. I really do like this. I actually like driving this AMG Mercedes at this track. It's just the lack of power which lets it down. And you can see again, getting through this sector, I'm able to pull that gap again slightly away from Derek DK and get a little bit closer to the Corvette in front of me, down to 1.3 seconds briefly. But I've got to get rid of that penalty before the finishing line anyway, so I knew that there was no chance of obviously winning the race. It was just a case of securing that P2, and that's why I'm trying to push reasonably hard so that I've got the time to get rid of that penalty and then get over the line in P2. So I managed to get a nice clean solid exit from that final corner. The gap's pretty much stable to the guy behind me, Derek behind me in that Corvette. And Martinez, man, a very well deserved win. He deserved that win for the tactics he used and how calmly he kept the car in the lead. Faultless drive by him. I take P2, had a bit more speed, but obviously couldn't use it with the battling that was going on. So a fun race, a really enjoyable race. I don't mind the battling that went on there. There was some very aggressive moves. I 100% admit mine were aggressive, but I think I only gave back what I got given to me, and there can be no complaints from either of us. I think we both were pretty much as bad as each other and as aggressive as each other. But I think everyone will admit that that race was thoroughly enjoyable to watch, and we're going to go back now and have a little look at every single instant that happened and have a little look. This was the first one that kind of started off the aggressive drive. You see me trying to break the slipstream, did my one allocated move, but look how far back he came in. I think he just missed his braking possibly. You can see he kind of panicked and sideswiped me, but I got took out there and ended up behind them and down into P3. And this is when I did some really strong driving at this point. You can see that Aston Martin on my left hand side, but he can't really go forward there. I go on the inside, brake really late, but on that inside line you can't really get the apex speed, so I have to let him through on the inside, but then I hold it, kind of a drift through the corner, brake really late down into first gear and managed to hold it into that apex. I actually think I did really well to keep that position, and it was an important move that had to be made. This was the battle then when we go side by side into this corner, and the slightest bit of contact there, I don't think that was anyone's fault really, that was just racing. And I managed to hold that move there with a bit of defensive drive, hold that position with a bit of defensive driving. Now we're going to have a little look at the move from quite far back going into turn 1. I braked really late at this point, and the Corvette can't really brake as late with its braking, and that's why it took quite a lot of speed in. And again, sideswiped me, and this is where it all started pretty much, the aggressive driving, because I thought that, I was thinking, well, that was a bit aggressive, well, I'm going to give it back. And back on the straight, you see, he made that mistake, and then that just made my eyes light up and thought, I'm going to go for a move. And I was going for this move. It was quite kind of a half-hearted move. You can see, if you listen to the engine, you'll hear the revs where I'm trying to just let the revs decrease the speed. And again, aggressive contact, but the move was made. And the thing is, I didn't wipe him out. He didn't come off his racing line really, but I get that position. So very aggressive drive, a little bit too aggressive, but we're both giving as good as what, you know, we're both doing it to each other, and no one can complain. And again, this was the defensive move. You can see he goes on the outside. I try and brake late. I brake a little bit later there, hold the inside, and he turns in there. I think if he wouldn't have turned in and tried to hold an outside line, and then he would have had the inside for that corner, he would have kept that position and actually still been in P2. But he tried to turn in a little bit too early, and there was a little bit of contact. But I had the right to the inside there, so I don't think anyone again can really complain. And it was just good fun racing. Quite enjoyable to be involved with a race like that when no one gets any penalties from it. And this is why I'm saying I'm not getting penalties at the moment. It's really weird because other people are. But if you actually have a look at the contacts that are going on in these races that I'm involved with, it's not severe contact. It's actually quite light contact, and it's not. The only one that was quite severe was when I think Derek missed his braking and he sideswiped me off the racing line. You can see I had to go all the way out. Other than that, the other contacts didn't really alter the racing line too much. Everyone managed to stay on the track, and that's how I think the game's judging it. I think if the game senses that the car's getting nudged completely off the racing line and pushed away, I feel they're the ones that are going to get the penalty. I don't think Derek got a penalty when he hit myself through that corner. It doesn't look like it, although that probably did deserve a little penalty, but he didn't pick one up. So if anything, it's a little bit too weak in some circumstances. But then I'm seeing other people getting penalties for little bits of contact, but what I'm noticing is it's more rear contact. If the contact's on the side of the car, it seems like the game's not giving the penalties. But if the contact is on the rear, that's when it seems to be giving the penalties more so, and quite strict penalties, which in a way is okay-ish, and it kind of encourages racing a bit more, so I can see why they've done that. But I'm enjoying this new penalty system. I think it encourages more racing, more entertaining racing, but I can understand why people don't like it, especially in the lower tiers where things were probably getting a little bit too aggressive. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that video. I'm going to be back tomorrow with either the nations or the manufacturers race. I'm not too sure which one will come first. I'll have a little to see which one I want to do first and edit through and do, and that'll be out tomorrow. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. Do click that notification button so you don't miss any future videos. Like I say, I do upload every single day. So thanks again for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and I'll be back very soon.